Well, Australia may not have a budget emergency, but a prominent think tank says one could be on the way without urgent action. The Grattan Institute has unveiled a report outlining more than $30 billion in annual savings, targeting households and retirees. It's brought a swift response from the superannuation industry and social services groups, who reject attempts to make those they represent carry the can. Here's finance correspondent Philip Lasker.
Australia's not so much a lucky country as a fool's paradise.
We have a very substantial budget problem, and in order to solve that budget problem, we need to make some tough choices.
And any of those are going to create some losers and are going to threaten the Australian's dream that I can keep having more and more and more of everything without even having to produce it.
As the government's Audit Commission searches for savings, the Grattan Institute warns that public service cuts aren't nearly enough, given the massive growth in the cost of healthcare, education and defence.
If Australian governments keep going the way they are, if we keep seeing spending on health increasing, they'll be running deficits in the order of about $60 billion in today's terms within a decade.
The Institute has recommended savings of more than $30 billion a year by broadening the GST to include all food, health and education, gradually increasing the pension age to 70, capping concessional super contributions at $10,000 and including the family home in the assets test for aged pensions.
Obviously, all of them would be difficult, but they would make a real difference.
Social service groups oppose broadening the GST because it hits low-income households hardest.
So you have to have a package of, say, a broader GST or a higher rate GST, use it to replace some of the very inefficient state taxes, and use it partly to improve social security rates and lower income tax rates at the bottom.
And the superannuation industry says the Grattan recommendations would leave more Australians with inadequate savings, increasing demand for government assistance.
The simple fact is a concessional contribution cap of $10,000 is something that affects many, many Australians and would take away the incentive to make any additional voluntary contributions.
They've become a way for the older generation to essentially pay less tax and transfer liability for paying tax to the younger generation today, the precise opposite of what superannuation was designed to achieve.
It's debates like this and the profound impact tax changes have on sections of the community that means the changes have a long lead time.
Conversations around those options need to start now. That doesn't necessarily mean that they'll be passed into the budget come May next year. They may be years away, but the options need to be considered now because we have an incredibly complex fiscal regime of state and federal taxes.
Recommendations too complex and controversial to be part of the next few budgets.
Many of those would be the sort of things you would expect a political party to take to an election to get a mandate on.
No matter what, the party's over for someone. It's the government who'll have to decide who ends up with the hangover.